Hello, hello. We are back with yet another chainsawman stream. This one was nuts. I will say that before we say anything else. Yeah, before we get into Chainsaw Man, one thing that we need to talk about. We are doing the Jingle Jam this year. So, during the first 2 weeks of December, there's going to be a special event going on. We're going to be running the Jingle Jam. You'll be able to donate money to charity. And when you do, it's like, I think, 35 pounds, right? So it's like 40-something euros. You get like $1,000 worth of games. Just for doing a good deed on Christmas. It's a very long-running event at this point. I think this is like the 11th or 12th Jingle Jam. They had a whole bunch of different names before, but it's an event run by the Yogscast. And this year, they're doing the whole community aspect of it as well. So basically, anybody can join in. So I thought, I stream already, why not, right? Let's do something cool. So that's what we're going to be doing. That's a thing that's going to happen throughout early December. That said, Chainsaw Man. Let's talk about my overall thoughts, I guess. The thing with this episode is that when I went into it, I was like, okay, something weird is going on. It very much had those sort of calm before type vibes, right? We started to get a lot of these POV shots, and we lingered on all of these very deep character moments. And while that's not really out of the realm of what Chainsaw Man has done before, something here just seemed like eerie, right? It sort of seemed uncanny in that something is coming. And I felt smug that I, like realized, oh, something's gonna happen, right? But as I said, I predicted literally nothing of what actually happened in this one. This episode's big twist was crazy, which we'll talk about a lot. I've got a lot of thoughts. I've already have a few ideas as to how the next episode might pick up. I'll say it right now. This is, like, without a doubt, my favorite episode so far, and it's not even close. This one blew everything out of the water, and I loved it. And I loved it so much. This one did that typical tragic story type of vibe of really making you lower your guard and then blasting you, and I love that so much. We opened this episode with a flashback of what we saw last time, right? So we see the Eyepatch girl bring Denji home, which was just a ton of fun, right? Again, making you lower your guard, sort of lowering expectations. We literally see them like stumble in the room, they fall over, and again, that unnaturally long scene as we linger on the kitchen, right? They don't cut away, we focus on it. They fall over, the chair knocks over, and we just stay there for a little bit. And there's a lot of these scenes, and so many scenes where we just stay there for a second. Just like for a second too long, almost. I really like how it sets up that twist. I don't know if it's just my weird over-analytical brain at this point. I like it. I like it. And yeah, the scene, again, I kind of want to stop mentioning it because I feel like that's going to be like half of what I talk about at this point. But again, the cinematography here, I mean, it's been excellent throughout, right? The shots we get in this one are so creative as usual. And the whole dimly lit room with the shadows falling, I mean, it's top-notch. I loved every second of it. The POV shot, right? There's a lot of these in this episode. A lot of this episode is POV. And it's sort of easy to miss, because they're clever with it, right? In some ways, it's not really POV, right? Like, we see her in the bathroom, and we sort of see through her eyes, but not really, right? Because we see her reflection. But we see her reflection from her point of view. So, in essence, the episode, especially like retrospectively, right, now that we know about the twist, this one is basically Eyepatch Girl's last hours, if you will. And it just hits so much harder because of that. Because we, like, follow this entire thing. That's so good. That's so good. That's so good. We see her, instead of morning routine, we see her nightly routine, which could be some messed up sort of also parallels. I'm not sure whether that's what they were going for. Because obviously we saw with Aki's, right? And that was super tranquil. Everything was great. Everything was like chill and all that. He's just making his morning brew. He's having a good time. And then Power steps in, and then that's sort of like your oh no moment. But with Eyepatch Girl, we see her already stumbling around, and then her big twist is a lot less fun. I'll say that. Then we get to the intro, and post-intro, we basically catch up with what we left off. Right, we see Denji. Actually, this surprised me a little bit, right? Because Denji was actually like, should I do this? And I wrote down, Denji is actually going to question himself. Maybe not as thirsty as I thought. So, you know, maybe Denji isn't really the thirstiest boy of them all. I don't know. Maybe. But I did like the little flashback in the flashback that we saw. With the whole Makima lollipop thing. The flashback of Makima was sort of sus as usual. I mean, surprising nobody. One thing I really like that they're doing so far is they are sort of jumping around between a lot of points in time. I feel like a lot of series nowadays sort of want to avoid this sort of non-linearity. Whereas with Chainsaw Man, I mean, I think I've said this before, right? We get into a flashback, then we get a flashback of a flashback, then in between the flashback, we get like another flashback or flash forward. It's great. And the fact that Denji actually kept like the lollipop, that's also very nice, I guess. It shows that he is sort of also sentimental with that sort of stuff. Basically, the big reveal is that nothing happened, right? Which sort of makes sense, because they said that Denji is a minor, and that is also addressed later in the episode, but nothing happened. Denji, the thirstiest boy, got over his thirst, and then, like, we get the brilliant shot of him sleeping on the floor, and Makima's just chilling. Because, you know, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. Then we basically cut right to their morning. And this is where my sus meter was going off the charts. Because this was way too tranquil. It was sort of uneasy in how perfect the morning was. Because in my notes... Well, first of all, of course, such a cool shot of them having breakfast. Why does everyone have the coolest crib of all time in this damn series? Yeah, that's true. Why does everybody in Chainsaw Man have such cool apartments? Look at that balcony. That balcony is huge. I guess being a devil hunter pays well. But yeah, here we basically see her say I'd get arrested if I had to move on a minor, which was just a clever little callback. And again, the POV shots, right? We like see the entire conversation through Denji's eyes, then we cut to her, and we cut back, and it's sort of this very, even with the shots when we focus like on them talking too, it's sort of very intimate with the camera. It's always like close up on their faces and stuff like that. Again, it sets up a different tone from what we've seen before. And it felt odd, it felt off, but in a very, very good way. Which, I think all of these little things set up that reveal so well. And I sort of want to rewatch even the episode now. I mean, I'm sort of doing it. I'm skimming through it as we're speaking right now. These scenes were like executed so well in how they linger on their conversations. And even like the shot that I wrote down as a very funny one. In retrospect, again, it's one of those scenes that was lingered on for like a second too much. She promises to set up Denji with Makima, right? And they assemble their little secret alliance where Denji is going to help her with Aki, and she's going to help him with Makima, right? And at this point, I was like, oh, we have some banter, right? But still at the back of my mind, I'm like, no, something is gonna go wrong. There's no way this is going to just be happy times, right? No way. And then there's like this panning shot we get behind the Eyepatch girl's head. And Denji just chews very audibly, and we just linger there. We just linger there for like a good 5 seconds or so, and it's like, okay, that's sort of sus. And it's basically, yeah, at this point, I 100% wrote, okay, this is way too sus. We are seeing a whole bunch of shots from their POVs. Now it's a trend. Something will go wrong. And I mean, I was basically right before it actually happened, so I was not some big brain. That's exactly what they were doing, right? They were setting up this little tranquil morning. We're gonna be friends. We're going to set up this alliance. It's going to be great. We're going to help each other get like relationships with people we really like. It's going to be great. And we're going to have breakfast together, and we're going to have more breakfast together. It's gonna be great. And then we cut to Makima. And this is a scene which also stands out in retrospect. Because, like, she says that she's sort of scared of meeting with the bigwigs and that it sort of makes her anxious, I guess, right? Because she says that she would rather eat in a relaxed mood, which was like, okay, so there are actually things that tick you off. You're not just this basically robot type person, right? Because so far, I think she hasn't expressed the least bit of emotion. When they were drinking, she didn't flinch even a tiny bit. She like won the drinking contest like a couple of episodes ago, and she was like, okay, we're done. We're done? Okay, I'm gonna go home now. So far, she's been like barely alive. But here, it was like, okay, that was a humanizing moment. And also later on, she says that later on, but since we're already talking about it, she also says that she liked spending time with like everyone else, which is like a very rare moment, I think, in terms of humanizing her. Because again, she doesn't express emotion. So her just saying that it was actually sort of fun was like, okay, so there maybe is more to you. And here is the best part. In my notes, I was writing, oh, so this is like another Makima is a thinker scene, right? Because we see her like gaze out of the window and she doesn't move. She doesn't move at all. Even as they go through the tunnel, she doesn't like move her eyes or anything, right? Implying that she's clearly lost in thought. Because, I mean, if you were looking at the scenery and you go in a tunnel, I mean, you're not going to stare at a wall, right? Just purely instinctively, you're going to turn your head, look around somewhere. But she doesn't. And while I was writing that, it cuts to silence. And they're shot. Imagine me sitting, casually having my morning coffee, and they're just shot. I mean, I'll say it right now. Not a single brain cell in my head thinks that Makima is dead. We literally later on see Denji shot in the head and he's perfectly fine. The other dude, clearly dead. No one cares about him. Makima, though, and this is where I'm gonna say it, because why not? I'm calling it now. The next episode is gonna open with something along the lines of, we are receiving reports that a train has blown up, or something like that. And then we like see on the news, we see like a TV, everything's blown up, everything's going wrong. And then Makima just casually either calls someone, or she casually shows up somewhere. She's gonna be perfectly fine, and I think we're gonna see more bin time from Makima. That's what I think. There is not a single part of me that thinks she's dead. I think she's not only fine, I think she's going to fight back, and I think she's going to kill everybody there. Which I think might be our first showcase of Makima being sus. But I also kind of think we're not going to see any of that. I feel like that's why it's going to be kept secret. That's sort of why I'm leaning more towards the fact of her just showing up and everything being fine. This is another case where I would ask like somebody who's read the manga, do in the manga they actually show a scene of Denji being shot in the head? Because I feel like for me that is the big reveal, right? Because Denji was fine, Makima is gonna be fine too. And then they say the operation is beginning, right? And then they just cold cut to our main gang casually having a meal, and I was like, oh no, it's going wrong. And we cut around to all like the others, the devil hunters we've seen so far, and the music is so eerie. It's perfect. The music in this scene. I would love to play it for everybody here, but I'm gonna get blasted out of existence because, you know, Japanese copyright and all that. But the music in this scene, it felt so off. And the angles they do, the shots we get, it was so perfect. This was like the most perfect big twist of all. It also works really well with like you putting the pieces together in your mind that all of them are being assassinated right now. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. Quick side notes. When we see all of them assassinated, we just cut to like a dude with his dog, and there's like the shot of a small street going into the city. I love that shot. I honestly want to have this shot as my wallpaper, and I don't even know why. Maybe it's like the perspective that comes from like the road going down and then like up into the city. Something about this specific scene, which is really, really cool. I really liked it. I really liked it. Then we cut to them all sharing a meal. And at this point, I was like, oh boy, okay, let's see. Let's see what happens with our power squad, right? And I didn't call it power squad because power's there. They're our power squad, because they're literally our power squad. At this point, I was very confused, because I was like, okay, are they going to actually get hit right here, right now, with all of them here? And then the dude speaks up. And in my notes, I just wrote, he babbles on. He might have said something foreshadowy and something very important. I don't know, honestly. Because at first, I thought this would be... Clearly, I was very wrong. At first, I thought this would be the person who tips off our main squad that the rest of them are being hit right now. Because he was alone, and I was like, okay, so something about him is off. And he's sort of your typical, he's sort of chilling out, right? He's just having his coffee or whatever he was having, and he just talks about like this and that and this and that. Oh, and the gun devil wants your heart, right? And at that point, I was like, okay, so you're probably going to tell me that the rest of your squad is being assassinated right now. You probably want to get out of here, right? And he's going to be that sort of a character. Clearly he wasn't. He pulls out a gun, headshots Denji, and then I was like, oh, so we're really doing this. And then Power just sucker punches him, which was like incredible. She just uppercuts him, and it was brilliant. And then, like in the hectic battle, split-second thing, Aki activates the Fox Devil, and then we hear the devil say, like the Fox Devil, that in my mouth is neither a devil nor human. And it literally just splits open. The amount of questions I have right now is ridiculous. Number one, is the Fox Devil, like, dead? Because it was split in half? Probably not. I would imagine not. But maybe? Maybe? Then number two, who the hell is this guy? Because in my notes I wrote, it's Swordman, right? Because Chainsaw Man. So this guy's Swordman. And then I wrote, Mr. One, is that you? For those of you who have seen One Piece, you know what I'm referring to? This guy's Mr. One, and nobody can convince me otherwise. The dude's basically a sword. One of its eyes was split, I guess it will heal. Oh, was it just one of its eyes? Because I thought, like, its entire mouth was split open. Oh, and the animation here. It was ridiculous, right? As we see the perspective shot, once again, we saw here, of, like, the dude being blasted out of the window, and then, like, the fox comes through, just chomps down on it, and the building just literally disintegrates right away. It was so good. The animation here. And also, the perspective shot of us seeing, like, the Fox Devil's eye, right? And it's sort of like, it's the dolly zoom type shot. We've talked about it plenty more in videos. And right here, remember how I talked about the sword? Well, clearly I was wrong about that too. Because here, Aki literally, without a second's hesitation, pulls it out. And I was like, oh, okay, we're doing this. We're doing this. Because I thought the moment he drew it, it would be like all bets are off. And Aki just goes like completely insane or something like that. But he doesn't at all. And this one was really weird. Because at first, I was like, okay, so this is going to be like another devil we see. But we don't really know what it does. But no, I was wrong. Because I was already trying to figure out what it does, right? I wrote down something pushed him as he attacked. And then it starts counting down. And I was like, wait, hold on. What's going to happen until we, when we get to 0? But yeah, we find, immediately we find out that it's like the nail devil or whatever. Where it like hammers in nails. I think it wasn't the nail devil, but it was something else. It's the curse devil, right? So that's why it had the nails. This one was really, really cool. In like purely what it does. Its design, the whole counting down aspect of it. I mean, everything was perfectly designed to just up the tension even more, right? Because, I mean, when any person watching something like this understands that something is counting down, I mean, you're immediately like, oh, things are bad. Things are bad. After he did the 3, right? The 3 nails. I wrote in my notes, he T-posed LMAO. Because he literally did. Mr. One, the sword guy, is literally T-posing by the end. And that really caught me off guard. And I had a good giggle. But that was really, really fun. My thoughts on that scene was, if the contract is that the devil kills him after he stabs him 3 times, since the devil didn't kill him, does Aki still lose life? I don't know. Because, like, the first time we heard about it, right? And something we would also see with Eyepatch Girl is that you like literally trade yourself away, right? So maybe with this cursed devil, Aki becomes cursed himself, right? So maybe he's cursed to die. Let's say he doesn't like give up a part of himself explicitly, but rather he like loses 15 years of his life or something like that. I feel like that would just be a neat way of sort of having the effects, but us not really seeing it, if that makes sense. Maybe whenever Aki makes his coffee, it's gonna be horrible now. It's going to be over-extracted each and every time. Aki can never have good coffee again because he used the cursed devil. Who knows? About the fight. I loved the fight, and not because it was like flashy or the animation was good or anything. Actually, it is because of the animation. But one thing in the animation, I loved how down-to-earth the fight was, right? If you go through the scenes where Aki is like thrusting the sword, it feels so weighty. It doesn't feel like Denji's fights where it's your typical anime type thing where he jumps up, he like runs across the devil's arm or something like that. He flies around its head, landing on the other arm. He runs down the arm and then back up its stomach or something like that. It's not like ridiculous, right? When Aki is fighting, it's literally like a sword fight. The dude is just running forward with a sword. And that felt really, really well done here. I think I mentioned it in like episode 1, but this is another one of those scenes that definitely seems mocapped. Someone told me that Mappa does apparently mocap things, so this was a scene with like Aki thrusting the sword. That 100% seemed very mocapped. If it's not, then somebody animated it literally perfectly. It was really, really good. You feel every strike and hit. 100%. It was one of those things that I feel like is super lost in anime. Even the, even like anime that's sort of tries to focus on more weighty movement and weighty combat, I feel like even that very rarely hits it. Because even series like Vinland Saga, which tries to be more down to earth, even there, combat does not feel weighty. It feels... I mean, when you have people slicing off like 4 heads with a single axe, this is not weighty at all. And ditto for like Attack on Titan and a whole bunch of those other series. The combat looks great, but it's not like weighty and realistic. Whereas here, I think it was perfect. Perfection. Obviously, the big thing is that this is also the reveal of another hybrid, so right away, we know for a fact that hybrids exist. At this point, I'm convinced Makima is also a hybrid. And again, they also mentioned the weapons, right? That only devil hunters and the police carry them. Because Denji was shot in the head, Makima is totally fine, as far as I'm concerned. Isn't Denji a hybrid? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Denji is a hybrid, and this sword dude is our second hybrid, right? So, I'm 1,000,000% convinced that Makima is the third hybrid. At this point, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the Gun Devil is also a hybrid. We obviously still don't know how these hybrids are sort of created and how they pop up, right? We've only seen that with Denji, because they sort of had that super close bond. Is that how it always works? Who knows? Who knows? What they said about that only police officers and devil hunters can obtain guns in Japan, that's sort of one thing that has me asking questions, like, is that just to imply that this operation, whatever it is, it's sort of so powerful that it can get around all of these restrictions? Or is it just another thing to sprinkle in something that these aren't random attacks? Because, I mean, for me, if they had guns, I wouldn't think of just a random person, right? I would immediately think of a large organization or something like that. So I don't know what that line is supposed to really hint toward. I can't see how the police would suddenly want to do anything and the devil hunters, like, from the inside, maybe? Doesn't make sense. I feel like it's just hinting at the fact that it's some large organization or something like that. Very bizarre lady shows up, and she casually identifies Aki's devil, right? She, like, immediately starts speaking about what he did, who he is, basically, and she's just chilling. And at this point, I was like, oh no. Oh no. Oh no. This is gonna be bad. And of course it is. She brings the Mr. One dude back up, and things basically get very, very bad almost right away. The dude literally starts moving at the speed of light. Aki is annihilated. I don't think he's dead. I think Aki is going to survive this, even though he took a pretty gnarly hit. We'll say that. I think Aki survives this, though. And then, obviously, the biggest thing in this one, which, like, if you watched my previous streams and you knew what was coming, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because Eyepatch Girl was my favorite character so far. Like, literally. What we see here was like, yikes. We see her devil be like, no, I'm not gonna attack. Like, this just smells of trouble. And then she says, I'll give up, like, all of myself for all of your power. And the music in this scene. Oh boy. It was so good. And then, like, we start to see her hands disappear. And it's ridiculous, right? The entire ghost devil, like, a bajillion hands start crawling around. It's like something out of, I don't know, a Stephen King novel of, like, a weird thing just swallowing up everything. I think this is supposed to be the snake devil, right? Because they talk about it being the snake or whatever. That just swallows the ghost devil. And at that point, I was like, what are we even doing anymore? At this point, I stopped taking notes. And luckily, the episode ends here. Because I was a little bit taken aback. But yeah, the Eyepatch Girl gets Thanos snapped out of existence bit by bit. And it was yikes. I love this twist so much, and I loved how it keeps building, right? It's not like a rug pull moment, it's a rug pull moment that just keeps building and building and building and building until there's like, we still haven't really seen it through, right? Because clearly, the fight is not over. Aki was just annihilated, the Eyepatch Girl is gone, and power is just still chilling there. And whoever this lady is, with her snake devil, who knows, right? But as far as reveals go, surprising nobody. This was incredible. I'm so glad I stayed out of spoilers. If I had this spoiled, I'd be sad forever. Wouldn't it be interesting if Makima showed up here and that's how we got out of this alive? Like if Makima just popped into this fight and annihilated the girl and Mr. One. I feel like that might happen. The ending. The visuals, easily one of my favorites. Right? And of course, because this is the Eyepatch Girl death episode, all of it is basically sad boy hours. We see graves, we see crows, we see flowers being... And now, remember what I said like a couple of weeks ago? The fact that we just kept focusing on crows? I mean, of course it had to be my favorite character getting killed off. Of course. Brilliant. But yeah, we see the crows, and we see the sunset, right? Because all the other flashbacks just so happen to take place in this wonderfully lit and this very bright setting. But now, it's a sunset because it's depressing, and it's very sad. It was glorious. Oh, and the shot we get of the Mr. One. I'm just gonna keep calling him Mr. One. The dude with the sword, right? And the lady. The shot of them in the destroyed building was so cool. It looked like something out of Dying Light, honestly. They were like in a high-rise building or something like that. And there's like a piece of rhubarb just sticking out. It was great. I loved it. And the flowers withering away. So good. There's a lot of these in this one, right? When they show like a wholesome shot, and then there's like a slight bit of distortion, and it goes like dead. Or something like that. We saw that with the flowers, for example. That was really, really good. As for the song... I don't know. I still think I'm gonna keep calling it the Death Note one. The Death Note one. I still think that was my favorite one. I think I would have enjoyed this one a little more if it emphasized the sadness. Rather than the chaotic nature of it all. I know, though. It was good. It just wasn't my favorite. In terms of the visuals, though, I think this might be my favorite one, though. I think it's a close fight between, like, the puzzly one, right? Where we saw those impossible shapes and all that. That one was really cool in terms of visuals. But this one was just cool in the sense that it was cool because of what it showed to us. As for the episode as a whole, let's take count. I think all the normies... Right, so the scaredy girl, unless she too decides that it's Morbin time and somehow lives, Because we still don't know her power, right? So she could still be alive. But no, that wouldn't make sense in terms of writing, right? You wouldn't even mention it. She has to be alive. Kobeni, I think her name was. Or Kobeni is the dude. No, Kobeni is the girl, right? So, whatever the case. I think she's alive. I don't know how, but I think she's alive. You wouldn't really write in that her power is a secret, I think. If it wasn't... Unless it's purposely, like, diverging your attention from that. I don't know. I don't think she's dead, basically. I think the only person that is 100% dead is Ghost Girl. Ghost Girl. I just realized. Oh my god, the greatest crossover. Is this a coincidence? Is this a coincidence? I didn't even realize it myself. But yes, the Ghost Girl, the Eyepatch Girl, was my favorite character. Is this a coincidence? Who knows? The rest of them, I think, are alive. At least now we know to never get attached to any character ever. Yeah, that does appear to be the case. That definitely appears to be the case. And if this is how they're going to go, I'm all in. I feel like the only characters that are truly safe at this point, for me, I think Denji is 1 billion% safe, and I think Makima is also totally safe. The rest of them, no. The rest of them at this point could die at any moment. I think the only people I feel confident about are those two. But yes, I think I'm going to call it for today. Thank you for joining me as usual. And then, like I said, we'll be back with plenty more stuff, both this week as well as next week. Alright, have a good one, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.